My name is Jake, and if I had any doubts about where I stood in my family, they were erased the day I found out about the will. It wasn't even some dramatic, sit-down moment where my parents dropped the news themselves. No, I found out entirely by accident, by sheer dumb luck. It happened a few months ago when I was at their house, the same house I had been helping them pay for over the past 5 years. The mortgage, the occasional grocery runs, even fixing up things around the place. I was the one keeping it all together while my brother, Eric, did absolutely nothing. And when I say nothing, I mean nothing. No job, no responsibilities, just lounging around waiting for life to hand him everything on a silver platter, which, apparently, my parents were all too happy to provide. That day, I was helping my dad with some paperwork because, as usual, neither of them could be bothered to figure out how to do things themselves. He had asked me to skin some documents for him, a bunch of legal and financial stuff, and I didn't think twice about it until I saw it. A folder labeled estate plan and last will and testament sitting right there in the stack. Now, I don't normally snoop, but curiosity got the best of me. After all, I had been the one making sure they kept a roof over their heads. It wasn't exactly out of line to wonder how things were set up for the future. So I opened it. And that's when I saw the words that made my stomach drop. Everything, and I mean everything, was going to Eric. The house, their savings, their assets. Not a single mention of me, except for some generic line about loving both of their sons equally. Yeah, sure. Equally. That's why they made sure their golden child would inherit everything while the son actually keeping them afloat didn't even get a footnote. I felt like a fool. Here I was, bending over backward for them, making sure their bills got paid on time, making sure they never had to worry about food, while they sat back and planned for a future where I got absolutely nothing. And Eric? He wasn't just lazy, he was entitled. He never lifted a finger to help them, never contributed a dime, but he had somehow convinced them that he deserved it all. Maybe because he was the younger son, maybe because they just always babied him, maybe because he knew exactly how to manipulate them. Whatever the reason, they had made their choice. I sat there staring at the paper, my hands shaking from a mix of rage and betrayal. How long had they planned this? Had they always intended for me to just be their free financial safety net with nothing in return? Did they ever even appreciate what I did for them? I had no idea how long I had been sitting there, but eventually, my dad noticed I wasn't scanning anything. "Hey, Jake, what's taking so long?" he asked, walking back into the room. I didn't even bother to hide the will. I held it up and looked him dead in the eye. "So, this is how it is?" I said, my voice unnervingly calm. "Everything to Eric? After everything I've done for you?" My dad's face went pale for a second, but then he sighed, like I was some little kid throwing a tantrum. "Jake, it's not what you think." "Really?" I snapped. "Because it looks pretty damn clear to me. I've been paying your mortgage, helping with groceries, fixing the house up while Eric does nothing, and you still decided he's the only one who matters." Dad looked uncomfortable, but instead of actually explaining himself, he just muttered, "It's complicated." That was it. No apology. No attempt to justify it beyond those two useless words. Just a weak excuse and an expectant look, like he was waiting for me to drop it and go back to being their personal ATM. I should have walked out right then and there, but I wanted to hear it from both of them. So I called out for my mom. When she came in and saw the will in my hands, her reaction wasn't much better. She at least had the decency to look guilty, but the words that came out of her mouth made my blood boil. "Jake, honey, you don't need the inheritance," she said gently, like she was doing me a favor. "You have a good job. You're independent. Eric, well, he struggles. We just want to make sure he's taken care of." That was the moment something inside me snapped. They weren't even denying it. They knew exactly what they were doing, and in their minds, it was completely justified. They had spent years enabling Eric's laziness, and now they were planning to reward it by handing him everything while I got tossed aside like an afterthought. I took a deep breath, clenched my jaw, and set the will down on the table. "Got it," I said, my voice eerily calm. "Glad to know where we stand." Then I turned and walked out of the house, ignoring their protests as I slammed the door behind me. They had made their decision. Now it was time for me to make mine. I didn't go back to their house after that. I didn't call. I didn't check in. For the first time in years, I let them handle their own damn problems. If they needed something fixed, they could figure it out. If they needed groceries, they could find their own way to the store. And most importantly, if that mortgage bill showed up, well, I wasn't the one paying it anymore. The silence lasted about 2 weeks. At first, I think they assumed I was just pouting and would come crawling back like always. Maybe they expected me to cool off and apologize for daring to question their decision. But when the days kept passing with no word from me, and more importantly, no financial help, you could practically feel the shift in their attitude. Then, one afternoon, my phone buzzed. Dad texted, "The property taxes are due." That was it. No, he didn't text, "Hey, how have you been?" No, "Sorry for what happened." No, "We really appreciate everything you've done." Just a cold, transactional message as if I were still the walking bank they could tap into whenever they pleased. I stared at the screen for a moment, almost amused at how predictable they were. They really thought they could just demand money like nothing had happened? That I'd keep playing my part as their financial safety net, even after they made it clear I was disposable? I calmly typed back, "I'm sure Eric will handle it, since the house is his and all." It took exactly 5 minutes before my mom called. I let it ring. Then another text came through. Mom texted, "Jake, please don't be like this. We need to talk." Oh, now they wanted to talk? Now that their bills were piling up and reality was finally slapping them in the face? I waited an hour before replying. "There's nothing to talk about. You made your choice. Now you can live with it." I figured that would be the end of it for the day. I had made my stance crystal clear, and there wasn't a single part of me that felt guilty about it. But then Eric decided to chime in. His text came in late that evening, and the second I saw his name pop up on my phone, I knew it was going to be something obnoxious. Sure enough, when I opened it, I was greeted with pure entitlement. Eric texted, "Dude, why are you being such a drama queen? It's not a big deal. Just help them out like you always do." I nearly laughed. Not a big deal? He was really acting like I had no right to be mad about this. I typed back, "Nah, I think you've got it covered, since you're the favorite and all." Eric texted, "Oh my God, are you seriously mad about the will? Grow up, man. It's just money." Oh, now it was just money. Now that it was his to inherit, it suddenly didn't matter? The hypocrisy was astounding. I shot back. "Then you won't mind using some of that money to pay for the mortgage, right?" Silence. A few minutes later, my mom texted me again, this time going full guilt trip mode. Mom texted, "Jake, we're your parents. Family takes care of each other. We did so much for you growing up, and now you're just abandoning us?" I had to take a deep breath to stop myself from throwing my phone across the room. Abandoning them? I had spent years making sure they never had to struggle, all while they coddled Eric and rewarded his laziness. And now that they finally had to deal with the consequences of their own decisions, I was the bad guy? I wasn't falling for it. Not this time. I responded, "You made it clear I wasn't part of the family when you left me out of the will. Now Eric can take care of you." I could imagine my mom gasping dramatically at that. She always had a flair for acting like the victim, even when she was the one in the wrong. A few minutes later, my dad sent another text, and this one had me seething. Dad texted, "We're not asking for much. Just enough to cover the mortgage for a few more months until we figure things out. Don't be selfish." Selfish. The word made my blood boil. I had been bailing them out for years, sacrificing my own money, time, and energy to make their lives easier. I had done everything a good son was supposed to do. And how did they repay me? By making sure I got nothing in return. And now, when I was finally standing up for myself, I was the selfish one? I clenched my jaw, took a deep breath, and typed back, "No, I'm done." Then I turned off my phone. They had made their choice. Now they were going to live with it. The silence lasted a day. I knew my parents wouldn't give up that easily, but I wasn't expecting what happened next. The next morning, I woke up to a notification on my phone, a bank transfer request. I frowned, unlocking my phone to check. It was from my mom. She had actually sent me a request for money, like I was some ATM. The amount? $3,500. I stared at it in disbelief, half laughing at the audacity. No message. No explanation. Just a cold, shameless demand for the exact amount they needed to cover their overdue mortgage. They weren't even asking anymore. They were just assuming I'd cave. I declined it without hesitation. Not even 5 minutes later, my phone rang. It was Mom. I let it ring. Then came another text. Mom texted, "Jake, I know you saw the request. Why did you decline it?" I took my time before replying, because it's not my responsibility. Try Eric. Another call. Declined. Then another text. Mom texted, "We're going to lose the house if you don't help us." Oh, now it was an emergency? After all those years of treating me like a walking wallet, now they were finally facing the consequences? I typed back, "Maybe you should have thought about that before deciding I didn't matter." A few seconds later, Dad chimed in. "Dad, You're really gonna let your parents become homeless? Wow, that one actually made me laugh out loud. The manipulation was so blatant it was almost funny. They weren't broke. They weren't about to be thrown on the streets. They just didn't want to dip into their own savings because they were so used to me covering everything. I ignored them for the rest of the day. That night, I got a text from Eric. Dude, just send them the money already. You're making this a bigger deal than it is. I clenched my jaw. This entitled little prick really thought he could lecture me? I typed back. You mean the same money you're inheriting? Why don't you send it? His response came fast. Eric texted, you know I don't have that kind of cash right now. Oh, so now it was about affordability? He was perfectly fine with me draining my accounts, but the second it was his turn, suddenly he had nothing to offer. I replied, guess you better figure it out then, bro. You're the one they chose. No response. I went to bed feeling oddly at peace, like I had finally broken free from years of manipulation. But the next day, things escalated. I was at work when I got a call from my apartment's front desk. Hey, Jake, your parents are here? I nearly dropped my phone. What? She hesitated before adding, they're saying it's an emergency and that you won't answer their calls. Oh, my God. They showed up at my apartment just because I stopped paying their bills? I took a deep breath, pinching the bridge of my nose. Please don't let them up. I'm not expecting them. There was an awkward pause. They're being kind of pushy. I clenched my jaw. I don't care. They can leave. I hung up and immediately got a text from Mom. We're downstairs. Open the door. No question. No explanation. Just another demand. I didn't reply. Another text from Mom. Jake, we're not leaving until you talk to us. I exhaled sharply, standing up from my desk. They weren't going to back down. Fine. I was about to teach them a lesson they wouldn't forget. I grabbed my keys and stormed downstairs, my blood boiling. I wasn't scared. I was furious. The sheer audacity of these people to show up at my home, uninvited, demanding money like I was their personal ATM. Not even a phone call first. Not even a half-hearted apology. Just a full-on ambush. They really thought they could just corner me into submission like I was some naive kid. I yanked the door open, and there they were, Mom, Dad, and, of course, Eric, all standing in a tight little formation like they were about to stage a family intervention. Mom had her arms crossed, her classic disappointed mother look locked and loaded. Dad was standing stiff, hands in his pockets, his expression a mix of frustration and entitlement, like he couldn't believe I was actually making him do this in person. And Eric? The little leech had the nerve to look bored. Like this whole situation was just mildly inconvenient for him. Like he wasn't the reason any of this was happening. The moment Mom saw me, she went full theatrics. Jake, finally, we need to talk. I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. No, you need to leave. She blinked, as if she physically couldn't comprehend what I just said. Excuse me. You heard me. My voice was calm, controlled, but firm. You don't get to just show up at my apartment demanding money. That's insane. Dad let out a sharp scoff. Are you really going to let us lose the house over a petty grudge? I let out a cold laugh. Petty grudge? Oh, you mean the one where you decided I was good enough to pay your bills but not good enough to be in your will? That grudge. Mom gasped, clutching her chest like I had just slapped her. Jake, that's not fair. We only did what we thought was best for the family. I tilted my head. Best for the family? You mean best for Eric. Just say it. Silence. A long, heavy silence. Eric, who had been weirdly quiet up until now, finally spoke up. Look, man, I don't even want to be involved in this. I didn't ask for anything. I turned to him, finally letting loose. No, you just sit back and take everything that's handed to you. You're 28 years old, Eric. Get a damn job. His face turned red. Dude, what the hell? I took a step closer. You heard me. You want to inherit the house? Start acting like a homeowner. You want to be the golden child? Start paying their damn bills. I'm done being your personal bank. Eric looked away, suddenly very interested in the pavement. Mom took a deep breath, recalibrating her guilt trip. Jake, he's your brother. I nodded. Yep, and I've supported him longer than you ever have. Dad's face darkened. You're being selfish. I laughed. A real, genuine laugh. Oh, that's rich coming from you. I gestured between them. You two decided that Eric deserved fixing it for you. Not happening. Mom's voice sharpened. We thought you'd be mature about this. I raised an eyebrow. Mature? You mean, Quietly accept that I was betrayed and keep paying your bills? Because let's be real, that's what you wanted. Dad stepped forward, trying to loom over me like he used to when I was a kid. Jake, we raised you. We fed you, clothed you, gave you everything. The least you can do is help us now. I looked him dead in the eye. I already did. For years. And you repaid me by cutting me out. Mom's lip trembled. We thought you'd understand. I exhaled, shaking my head. Oh, I understand perfectly. I understand that I was never family to you, just a paycheck. Silence again. A suffocating, undeniable silence. I turned to Eric, who was still pretending to be invisible. And you? What's your excuse? You had years to grow up, to get your life together, to contribute. But you didn't. Because you knew they'd take care of you. And when they're gone, you just expected me to step in, huh? Eric finally snapped. What do you want me to say, man? I didn't ask for this. I nodded slowly. Right. You didn't ask. You just benefited. His mouth opened, then closed. Nothing. He had nothing. Mom tried one last guilt trip. Jake, we're family. Family takes care of each other. I stared at her for a long moment before answering exactly. So why didn't you take care of me? She froze. No words. No comeback. Nothing. I let out a slow breath, feeling lighter than I had in years. We're done here. I turned and walked back inside, closing the door behind me. Before I even made it back to my couch, my phone buzzed. A new text from Dad. Wow. After everything we've done for you? You're really gonna abandon us? I smirked, typing back. No. You abandoned me. I'm just finally accepting it. I had sinned. Then I blocked their numbers. But I had no idea that blocking them was only going to make things worse. It didn't take long for things to spiral out of control. Less than a day after I blocked them, I started seeing posts on Facebook. My parents had never been the most tech-savvy, but they sure knew how to air their grievances online, especially when they were feeling self-righteous. At first, I thought it was just my parents being dramatic. I mean, that was their go-to move, airing out family drama for everyone to see. But the longer I scrolled through their feeds, the more I realized this wasn't just about me not helping with bills anymore. The posts were disguised as family love, but they were thinly veiled shots at me. Mom had posted something about how she didn't raise her son to be so selfish and how true family helps each other no matter what. A few of her friends commented along the lines of how I was a disappointment and so out of touch with what really matters. Then, Dad chimed in with his own post. So-called family should never turn their back when you need them most. We gave everything to our children, and this is how we're repaid. My son, who should be helping us in our golden years, has chosen to abandon us. He tagged me, adding a passive-aggressive, I hope you're happy, at the end of it. But the real kicker came from Eric. I should have known he'd get in on the drama. He shared a post that was brimming with falsehoods. Some people think that family is just about money. They don't understand that family is about love and sacrifice. I'd do anything for my parents, but some people just don't get that. They're too wrapped up in themselves to realize that true love is about helping those who raised you. He even threw in a disguised jab at me. I wish some people could learn what it really means to be family. I love my parents, and I'm grateful for everything they've done. That was it. That was my breaking point. I sat there, staring at the screen in disbelief. How had it gotten to this point? They'd turned this entire situation around, made me the villain, the selfish son who wasn't willing to support his sacrificial parents. The son who didn't appreciate all the love they gave me over the years. How could they? I had always been the one who worked hard, the one who contributed, the one who never complained. I had to swallow the fact that, somehow, they had convinced themselves they were in the right, and now they were telling everyone that I was the problem. I didn't want to react immediately. I took a step back, collected my thoughts, and waited for a few hours. I wanted to make sure I didn't just rush into something out of anger, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized that I couldn't let them get away with this. If they were going to drag my name through the mud, I was going to set the record straight. So I pulled out my phone, and I started typing. I opened my own Facebook account, the one I kept for close friends and real family, and I posted a lengthy update. I wasn't interested in playing their game. I didn't want to get bogged down in petty back and forths. What I wanted to do was tell the truth. Here's what I wrote. I know I've been quiet for the past couple of days, but I can't stay quiet any longer. My family has been sharing a lot of things online about me that are simply not true. They've portrayed me as the villain, the selfish one who refuses to help my parents in their time of need. I'm here to set the record straight. I've always helped my family. From the moment I could get a job, I've been the one helping with bills, paying for groceries, and supporting them in every way I could. But there comes a point where you can't keep giving without being respected. Over the years, I've watched my parents favor Eric, giving him everything: the house, the money, the attention. Meanwhile, I was expected to just keep giving, without ever being considered as equal. I'm sure some of you might be reading this and thinking, well, that's just how family works. But here's the truth. Family should be a two-way street. When I found out that my parents left everything to Eric in their will, I realized how one-sided this entire relationship had been. They didn't even consider me, not even for a moment. They've made it clear that I'm just the one they can count on when things get rough, but never the one they actually want around unless it's convenient for them. For years, I've been the one funding their lifestyle. I've paid for vacations, chipped in for bills, and even helped out with things like the house taxes. And for what? To be treated like a backup plan? I'm done. I'm not just some wallet they can pull money from whenever they need it. I'm a human being, and I deserve respect. I've earned the right to be treated like I matter, not just when they need something from me. As for Eric, it's time for him to grow up. He's 28 years old, and he's never worked a day in his life. He's never taken responsibility for anything. My parents have enabled him for so long that it's no surprise he's the one they favor. But here's the thing. He's had plenty of time to get his life together. And now, it's time for him to stand on his own 2 feet. To everyone who has been following this drama and supporting my parents, you need to understand that there's always two sides to every story. Yes, family is important, but it's also about mutual respect. I've given enough for a lifetime, and I'm not apologizing for taking a step back. This is not me turning my back on family. This is me finally choosing myself. And to my parents, I wish you the best, but I am done being your doormat. I hit post, and instantly, I felt a sense of relief. For the first time in my life, I was telling the world the truth about my family, about how they had taken advantage of me for years, how they had always expected me to be the one to save them, without ever once thinking about what I needed. I wasn't going to let their narrative control my life anymore. The reactions were instant. Some people, who I hadn't talked to in years, came forward to express their support. A few of my cousins, friends of my parents, even some distant relatives liked the post, sending me private messages telling me they were sorry for what I had been through. It felt so freeing to finally have the truth out there, not buried under guilt trips and manipulative behavior. But then came the backlash. My parents and Eric went ballistic. Eric messaged me, "You're a traitor. You really had to air all our business out like this? You have no respect for family." Dad called me, practically yelling into the phone, "You've ruined everything, Jake. You'll regret this. You'll regret cutting us off. You'll regret turning your back on your own family." But I didn't regret it. Not for a second. I blocked them all. I was done. And for the first time in my life, I was free. Free from the toxic grip they'd had on me for so long. As the days passed, I could feel the weight lifting off my shoulders. I was done with being treated as less than. I was done with being the one who was always expected to fix everyone else's problems. And now, I finally had the freedom to live my own life on my terms. So, no, I don't feel bad for cutting them off. I deserved better. I still do. And from now on, I'm choosing to surround myself with people who appreciate me for who I am, not for what I can give them. It's time for me to move forward, for good. And I will. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.